I have the Oscar nominations. We're going to talk to Tanya Powers coming up in a moment. This morning, also, I can't believe we're going to announce this, but there is something that's going to be returning. I don't know the entire way that it is returning, but if there was one program out there that you would like to see return, what would it be?
Well, the one I'd like to see is Impossible because the main guy is dead.
Never say impossible. Never say impossible. You would want what?
The Sopranos.
So that's exactly the answer I was looking for.
No.
Yes, I wanted to be able to tell you. That's impossible, idiot. What the heck's wrong with you?
The Sopranos.
No, it is Sopranos. And when I initially read this, I'm thinking this is a big mistake. You can't do anything without James Gandolfini, et cetera, et cetera. But that is unless, and I think I like the concept, that is unless you were to create The Sopranos, the prequel.
Okay, now we're talking.
Now we're talking because it puts you into the 1960s in New Jersey and New York City. And guess who is going to be playing a young 1960s era Tony Soprano? Davey, I'm going to let you guess, too. I'll let you in because Manaski's busy filing papers right now.
You mean an early 1960s James?
This would be a Tony Soprano from the 1960s. This is what's happening here. So this was basically when the storyline would be. It's when Sopranos is Tony Soprano is growing up during a civil rights movement. There's JFK. There's Sinatra. There's the 60s. This would be a cool series.
Yeah.
If
Is
it's a
HBO
series,
doing
I'm
it?
pretty sure it's a series. I'll tell you more about that in a second. But who do you think would make a great actor to play a young James Gandolfini?
John Travolta.
John Travolta.
Oh, God, I hope
He's too old. He'd be way too. Maybe a young John Travolta.
Oh, Tony, you look
a
old
young
for your
one.
age.
Wow, Tony, you're bald now. What happened? Where'd the hair go?
I'm trying to think of physical stature wise a young actor that would be as formidable.
What if I were to tell you his name is Michael Gandolfini? He is the son of James Gandolfini.
Are you serious?
Yeah, this is big. I'm loving this.
So
I
that's
think
so
there's
strange
some
to me
huge
because
opportunity going on here.
when I remember when he passed away, his son was like 13.
That was like 2013. Today he is 19 years old, and he's already acting. He's already done some stuff. He was. Let's see. He was. And by the way, guess who's back? David Chase. He's writing this. He's written the script along with Lawrence Connor, whose credits include 3 episodes of the award-winning series. Michael Gandolfini was seen last year as Joey Dwyer in HBO's The Deuce, and also had a small role in Ocean's 8. He was born in 1999 when his father was married to his first wife, Marcy. Gandolfini Sr., of course, died in 2013.
This is going to be really cool. And didn't David Chase recently come out and say that Tony died in the final episode?
I don't.
I feel like
think
that
so.
would have been bigger news. But
I don't believe he did. I think that they've stuck by their story that it is. You have to figure that out on your own. I mean, they cut to black. You've got to figure that out on your own. But Sopranos returning. It doesn't say here whether or not it's going to be a feature film. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a series. But imagine how far they can go with that starting in the 1960s. This could be another legendary series that you can't put down.
I hope so.
Right? So the return of Sopranos from the 1960s, prequel, Tony Soprano being played by his 19-year-old son. That's going to be really
some
something.
nice cars in that one.
Staying in the, we're going to talk to Craig Muter from the National Baseball Hall of Fame coming up in just a little while. Mariano Rivera becoming the first player ever to be unanimously inducted into the Hall. That's pretty big. We talked about Musina. He got in. And we didn't think that was going to happen yesterday. So Craig Muter coming up in a bit. Also Rachel Sutherland later in the hour on what's going on with the Supreme Court yesterday upholding the president's ban, at least for now, on transgender military a ban on transgenders in the military. And the Oscar nominations were announced yesterday. And the one and only Tanya J. Powers is standing by right now from Fox News. Any big surprises? There were a few snubs, I think, yesterday, right?
Yeah, there were a few. Bradley Cooper is probably one of the most notable ones. He was, not nominated for directing. That was, I think, the surprise. He was nominated for actor. But the directing of *Star Is Born*, I think a lot of people had thought that he should probably be included in that one.
Yeah, because I thought that was really such a great movie.
I still have not seen that one. I've got a list of things I've got to see before the next month is up. I've seen some of them, but not
that.
all.
That would be one, and I think it'd be worth. It's worth seeing. It's a really good movie. So.
Yeah, the Mr. Rogers documentary also, did not get.
That was a good movie too. I liked that one a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people. The Won't You Be My Neighbor? A lot of people were really surprised that one was left off of the documentary list. You also had with acting, I believe there were some people who were surprised that Margot Robbie was not nominated for Mary Queen of Scots. There were some other folks, but I think some of the big, headlines from yesterday obviously were the fact that there's finally been a superhero movie that's been nominated for Best Picture. Black Panther is the first one.
Yeah, that's big.
Which is kind of big. There's some standouts obviously with the 10 nominations apiece going to Roma as well as The Favorite. Have you seen either one of those?
I've not. I got to see probably more movies this year than I've seen in a long time. But I saw a couple of stinkers. I don't know how that happened, but they certainly weren't nominated. Did I mention to you that my retention level is at an all-time low? So, yeah. It's
is
not
this a
good.
retention thing, or is this a thing of I don't really want to admit to seeing
no.
these things and spending my money in the theater?
I really have a tough time. It's like sometimes we'll get into the middle of a movie that we're watching at home, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, we've totally seen this before. So one that I thought was one of the best of the year was Bohemian Rhapsody. I thought that was awesome, and I did see that.
Well, and Rami Malek is nominated for Best Actor for that one.
As I think he should be.
Other nominations as well.
Yeah.
The Best Actress category should be pretty interesting because you've got Olivia Colman for The Favorite, Lady Gaga for A Star Is Born, Melissa McCarthy. There's a lot of people saying this is her best role ever, and Glenn Close for The Wife. I think she's been nominated something like maybe 7 or 8 times now. She's not won. So that one's going to be one to look for. I think the Best Picture nominees are for the most part from either from what I've seen personally of them or the reviews that I've heard from other people about them. I think this is one of the strongest feels in a while.
Here's a list that I have compiled of actors and actresses who might surprise you that have never been nominated for an Oscar. And I think you might be surprised. So here's my list. John Goodman, Steve Buscemi, which that really surprises me. Martin Sheen, Mia Farrow, Marilyn Monroe, Ewan McGregor, Scarlett Johansson, Donald Sutherland, never, and Richard Gere and Kevin Bacon also never nominated for an Oscar.
Never Kevin Bacon?
No.
Wow.
No. There's 7 degrees of Oscars, but not of Kevin Bacon. It's really weird. So there you go. Anyway, this looks like it's going to be a hostless Oscars, right?
Yeah, I mean, that it can definitely be done. I mean,
I guess.
From some of the ones that we've had as past host, I think there's been years where we would have probably all agreed that would have been a better idea. But it appears that it's going to be that way unless something changes in the next month.
All right, good stuff there, Tanya J. Powers. And were you ever a Sopranos fan?
I wouldn't call me a fan. I did not actually see that series until like the last 3 or 4 years, and I got almost all the way through the first season, and sort of.
Okay, so it wasn't for you. I was.
Don't feel bad. I didn't like Breaking Bad either. So
addicted to Sopranos. Addicted,
yeah, I know. I was waiting on that. I'm sorry. Sorry, I should have warned you. Have you had enough coffee to hear that yet?
Manaski's trying to quit smoking. Just ignore him. Look the other way.
Oh.
Do not make eye contact.
Look, you do you.
Say you saw it. Say you saw it.
All right, Tanya, great stuff. Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
All right.
Tanya J. Powers from Fox News. How about, and wait till you see the picture of Gandolfini's son. You got to look it up.
Does he look just like him?
He looks like him. I wouldn't say
receding hairline and everything.
I'm telling you, a young James Gandolfini is what his son looks like. Here's the.
You got it right there.
I do have it right there.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
you totally
yeah.
can see it in his face. I mean,
you know what throws me is he's got all that hair. So
well, that is so typical of a young man, right? And he's thinner too. He's
thinner,
much thinner than his because the belly comes on after the beer or whatever. And I think this will be pretty cool. I'm not sure when, but more details are forthcoming. But the fact that his kid is playing an early version of him is, listen, it's all in the writing, but I think this is going to be pretty cool. We're going to talk to Craig Muter coming up. Surprised that Mussina got in?
Based on his numbers, I guess not.
Surprised that the first ever unanimous inductee in Rivera?
Mariano certainly deserves to be there. If I had a vote or 10 votes, he would get all of them. But, I mean, he's the first player ever. So not Babe Ruth, not Mickey Mantle.
Not Derek Jeter, as people thought.
Not Griffey. So 100%, does he deserve 100%? I guess so.
I think
he'd get my vote.
When you look at those old guys, the Mickey Mantle and some of those older guys, I really think that they had probably offended a writer or two when they were bombed every night in the bars. It was a different. It really was a different time, and I don't see Rivera as being that guy.
No, he was
probably wouldn't even be the guy that's going out as everybody goes out after the game. I don't see him as being one of the guys that goes out. So, listen, respected. And probably the greatest reliever you can certainly think of, and because this modern-day reliever is something kind of new to baseball, at least modern to baseball anyway, right?
Yeah, and the other thing is, there are some closers in the Hall of Fame. They were 3-inning closers. Mo's a 1-inning closer. Did he deserve 100%? I'm leaning toward no. Does he deserve to be there? Absolutely.
From the Baseball Hall of Fame, we can talk a little sports here. And yesterday, Rivera, Martinez, Holliday, Mussina elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And Rivera, the very first to do it unanimously. Good morning, Craig Muter.
Mr. Keeler, how are you this morning?
Wonderful. So, Manaski, you're not quite there on Rivera being the first unanimous. What's your take?
Craig, what I said was if I had 1 vote, Mo would get it. If I had 10 votes, Mo would get 10 votes. But the first guy at 100%, I almost think it's a sign of the times. Jeter wasn't 100%er. Mantle, Ruth, you name it. Nobody who's been there before has gotten 100%. I don't think a 1-inning guy
Jeter will get
100%. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You had mentioned the Jeter
What
thing.
I said was they thought that Jeter would be the one.
So what do you think, Craig?
Well, let me ask you this. Jeff, do you think Willie Mays should have been 100%?
In hindsight, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so if that's the case, so if he wasn't 100%, but Mo is now, is Rivera the best closer of all time at what he did?
Yeah.
Okay, so if he's the best all time, why, if you're a voter, why say, just because Mays didn't get it, and I see that now is wrong, why should I penalize somebody in the future? And I can see that, and I tell you what, with Mo, there's no question. I don't know anybody can make an argument that he is not the best at what he did of all time. And if that's not 100%, if that's not worthy, then I don't know what is.
First of all, the save had devolved from 3 innings to 1. I'm not making the case against Mo. I love him.
But beyond that, when you say devolved, I would like to say, and Michael makes this point earlier when you were talking about him, that forget the fact that it devolved. He actually pioneered that position. That closer spot, the way we know it today, I think Rivera was a pioneer. Muter, Manaski's shaking his head. What do you think?
Well, see, he's always shaking his head at me. But I tell you, again, look at Mo and what he did, not just in the regular season, but in the postseason. And think about this in the All-Star game. In the All-Star game, Mariano Rivera pitched 9 All-Star games. He was named to 13, pitched in 9 of them. In those 9 All-Star games, he faced 30 batters, and only 5 got hits. No runs scored against him. So against the best batters of his time, he's still dominating him. This guy is in another league by any definition, And we're just so thrilled to be able to honor him in Cooperstown.
100% Mo deserves to be there, but we're talking about an all-star game, especially late in the game, where the biggest stars are usually out by then. Who's making dinner reservations? The all-star game, I don't see as a
all right,
supportive.
Craig Muter, I just want to tell you, he's trying to quit smoking. He has not had a cigarette in how many hours?
We're approaching 60, maybe. It was Sunday night.
Okay, he is miserable.
Hey, but hats off to you, Mr. Moneski. That's very good. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, the only way this hat's coming off is there's a cigarette underneath it.
All right. So quickly, I know you're tight for time, Craig. What does this mean for the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown coming up in July? It's got to be big.
This is going to be a really big one. You got to figure that we're gonna approach record numbers here of the crowd. We're just absolutely thrilled. July 21, Sunday here in Cooperstown, and you don't want to miss this one, because this is going to be one where you're going to look back and say, this is history. We're probably looking at next year too, when Derek Jeter goes on the ballot. These are 2 years that you're going to tell your grandkids about. You're going to say, I was in Cooperstown for these 2 inductions. It was a piece of history. Make your plans now. Save that date, and definitely look for housing wherever you can get it, because it is going to be tight, my friends. Everybody's going to be looking for a place to stay.
Yeah, now would be the time to do it. And if you own property in Cooperstown, by the way, now would be the time to pop it up there and wait for the best offers. So, all right.
Yeah, I've got an abandoned car out in Sly Creek. I'm going to try to rent that out and see if I can get some money for that one.
I was
awesome.
Just going to say I'm going to Airbnb Andrew's bedroom.
All right, Craig, from the National Baseball Hall of Fame, thanks so much, Craig Muter. And away he goes. Rachel Sutherland standing by right now from Fox News, and then we'll break. I wanted to get this in as yesterday, the Pentagon is able to move forward on the plan to limit transgenders in the military. A decision by the Supreme Court. Good morning, Rachel. What do we know this morning on this one?
Hey, good morning. Yes, this was kind of a non-decision from the Supreme Court, basically sending the issue back down to the lower court. So it's not completely over. It does lift the injunctions that were in place in the lower courts. It kind of starts it all over again. It does allow the Pentagon to move forward with the plan, and it's a bit confusing. The Pentagon says it's not an outright ban on transgender individuals, but it does say that those who can't demonstrate stability in their assigned sex for 3 years before applying to serve can't serve. I think the Trump administration, when they announced the ban, the president made a big splash on Twitter, shocked even the Pentagon, but making the argument that the military really shouldn't be paying for these sex reassignment surgeries and the care afterwards, which is pretty expensive as well.
You know what's interesting is when we think of transgender in the military, and I think this is why so many members of the military are very cautious on this topic. When you think of transgender, if you're against it, and you're always going to portray a photo of a man who is dressed up, and that's the vision that is. But there's so much more to this, like a Bruce Jenner, who's now Caitlyn Jenner. There's so much more to this, especially on the female side, that transgender into more of a male figure. And that is pretty prevalent in the military.
It's interesting because, the stereotypes are being busted. There's actually this transgender Navy SEAL. Look her up, Kristen Beck. This is a transgender woman, and she is calling out this ban as being immoral. But, I mean, she looks like somebody that I wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley. So, I mean, look, some of these people, we don't know about their functionality, their deployability. I know that then Secretary Mattis was saying this all had to do with deployability. But these folks are saying this is a discrimination. Bottom line is this goes back to the lower courts. I don't think this is over.
Right.
The Supreme Court lately has been keeping its head down, doesn't want to take up controversial cases.
Yeah.
It's really quite fascinating.
They're looking at a gun case, which is interesting. They've kind of avoided that. There's a few of those cases. You're absolutely right that, they just seem to defer a bit here. And
I think it's because of the Kavanaugh hearing.
Yeah,
I think
I do.
After that, it's been pretty quiet.
Interesting. All right, Rachel, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Rachel Sutherland from Fox News. All right, Mitch wants to pipe in on Mariano Rivera, and we'll let him do that when we come right back. Fox Business. It's Mitch and Alien standing by on Mariano Rivera. What do you think, Mitch?
Okay. Hi, Bill. Thanks for taking my call.
Good morning. He's going to agree with me.
Rivera definitely needs to be honored, go in the Hall of Fame first ballot, have a high percentage. My only comment would be Babe Ruth got 95.3% of the ballot was not unanimous. Rivera's the first one ever be unanimous. I think that I kind of wish that at least one sports writer did not make it unanimous.
Yeah.
Because Babe Ruth would stand alone both as a pitcher and then as a right fielder with a career batting average of 342.
Well, don't you think that that next year you'll see Jeter go in unanimously? I mean, that was one everybody thought.
I mean, Jeter's a great player, great stats, definitely deserves high honor. I guess I'm kind of a traditionalist that just felt that if Ruth didn't get a unanimous vote, I don't know if anybody else should.
You used others, but Babe Ruth would be a perfect example, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think actually the reason you would see like a Ruth or a Mantle not get in is because the point you made, Bill, they weren't everyone's best friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
And clean. Very, very clean.
With Ruth.
Okay, so here's something to think about too. Is sports writers were much different, and the whole newspaper world was much different. Those that get a vote, the crowd today is much different than it was 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah,
much different.
You're right about that.
Yeah. All right, Mitch, thanks, man.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for taking the call.
Hey, here's a question for you. How much do you think a hot dog is going to cost at this year's Super Bowl?
I can't answer this.
I let Mitch not going to take a shot.
$8?
Mitch is so angry over the price, he hung up.
No, actually.
What are you saying? $8?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
I heard the interview with Kilmeade yesterday.
Oh, you did? So you know that it is
$2.
$2.
Good job. I was actually going to go the other way.
This is a big deal.
And $5 beers.
And it started in Atlanta. Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium, home of the Atlanta Falcons, hosted this year's Super Bowl, turned the sporting world on its head when it opened last year, not 2018 season, but 2017 season, with a program that they call Fan First Menu Pricing, offering the league's cheapest concessions, $2 sodas, $2 hot dogs, and $5 beers.
That's awesome.
It really is.
Good for them.
Yeah. And they're going to carry that over into the Super Bowl.
And they said that a big reason for it, and it actually was very successful for them in the last 2 seasons, was to get people into the stadium earlier. They stay longer. Their revenues have actually increased pretty dramatically because of the cheaper prices.
And
so the revenues have increased. That's interesting.
And you know another reason why that they're going to keep them down, even though it's the Super Bowl, they're going to keep them at the 2, 2, and 5, and all the prices that you just named, is because the Patriots are in it again, and apparently nobody wants to buy tickets for the freaking game.
I know.
Do you think it would be different if the Saints were in?
No, I really don't. But that was a story that had come out.
Yeah.
I think last week, leading up to championship weekend, was that they were expecting, and I don't know if this is true at this moment, but they were expecting that, your third, what is it, what market? The third party market, whatever, the resale tickets would go for much less because so many fewer people are interested in watching New England again.
The cheapest seats you'll find are StubHub. Cheapest seats on StubHub are about $3,000. That is pretty inexpensive for a Super Bowl.
Wow. Yeah, that's still a lot though.
So
not when you think that people are paying. I'm not. It's all relative. I'm not saying necessarily that hey, we'll easily pay $6,000, but you do see. And to be honest with you, a pair of tickets for $8,000, $10,000 versus $6,000, they're not that much cheaper by any means.
Well, usually the price goes up though, and you're talking about half price. Did you say from 8,000?
I'm just throwing out numbers that I recall from previous years. What do we think about these fans that are suing the NFL for a do-over? Saints fans.
Yeah, there's
it's
a guy
so
who represents the ticket holders.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's because it's going nowhere, right?
What are they going to cancel the Super Bowl now? They're going to remake the memorabilia?
I will tell you, it would be more interesting than the Pro Bowl.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe starting it off during the Pro Bowl, popping it in at halftime, something like that would be kind of, I'd watch it. I mean, it'd be crazy, unprecedented. You'll never see it happen. But it would certainly be like, okay, this is a lot better than Tiger Woods and Mickelson doing this thing in Vegas.
My gosh, yeah.
I agree. So can I just, a quick point here, and this is how, again, sign of the times how ridiculous some things are today, and I get it. You can make an argument the ref not making that call, it affects people's contracts, their livelihoods. You know, guys that were going to go to the Super Bowl.
Does affect their bets.
They're never going to go to the Super Bowl. Who lost how much money on that call not being made, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the NFL cannot use this guy's name now, the referee. I don't think he's been fired. I'm hearing he's not going to be fired. But they can't use his name because people want to go to his house and kill him and threaten his kids.
Can you believe that? I mean, hello, people. This isn't soccer. Come on. We don't kill people over here.
Gangs of people that represent
over
each team.
Sports. We just don't do it.
But it's just crazy. I mean, you want to actually they would do it too. They want to kill the guy because he missed the call, and it was a horrible call. Don't get me wrong.
Something to talk about. We'll get into. New York State has enacted one of the nation's strongest protections for abortion rights. In fear, this is a splash moment, but it was kind of interesting where people have always said, well, it doesn't matter what the feds do, what the Supreme Court does, because in New York State, abortion is already protected. Not the case. New York State always relied on Roe v. Wade, and that changed yesterday. Both the Democratic-controlled House, or the Assembly, and Senate yesterday voting. The governor signed the bill on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, and that was put into place. A couple of interesting, you'd expect Democrats to vote one way, Republicans probably to vote against it. Guess who voted against it?
Hold on.
And it caused a little stir yesterday. There were a lot of people that I had heard that were chatting about this.
Was
now,
it our local?
Some might say, wow, I think this is awesome. I will support her. Others will say, you're a Democrat. You said you were going to stand up for our democratic values, and you voted no. So that's going to cause her some, within her party, it's going to cause her some issues, I think.
I do think that came up, though.
She said that, I think she said that she would vote the way, she would stand up for the values of the party. Because if you remember, when Salatino was still in the race, he was calling her a Republican.
Sure.
Said he was tied. I think they put out that. It was a pretty nasty direct mail piece that tied her to President Trump, talked about Roe v. Wade, all of those issues. Turns out when she got into the seat and actually cast her vote, she did vote against it.
I want to say, though, at one point she did say she was a pro-life Democrat. It might have been one of the debates that I was at.
Well, you did those debates.
Yeah,
I was watching Jeopardy during that time, during those debates.
But you're right about what you said, yeah.
Well, at the very least, it could very well lead to, when she reruns in 2 years, it could lead to a primary.
I'm sure it will.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Next hour, Joe Marino is coming in. He's taking issue with snow removal. And how about that flood? It looks like a flood. It's actually a water main break down by John Street and Oriskany. Holy moly, pretty bad. We'll talk about it coming up next hour. Our free money question of the day this morning from the Hobica Law Firm. And I have one that goes in line with what we've been talking about this week. That's my little clue. I'm not sure that gets you anywhere, but that's my little clue.
I think I might have my own personal idea
Okay,
of that.
well, feel free, all right? Someone recreated the same play on Madden that cost the Saints a spot in the Super Bowl, only this time the refs called what? What did they call? Did they or did they not call pass interference? Here on the Madden game, here's the audio.
Breeze now on 3rd and goal. That's incomplete, but there is a flag down, so hang on. A big call coming on 3rd down.
Pass interference, defense.
There you go. I mean, Madden, the video game can call it. What is wrong with these referees?
They predict a lot of the Super Bowl games and stuff too. So actually,
are they any bit accurate? You think?
No.
Okay.
God, no.
All right. Okay.
So somebody had given an alternative argument to this. The thing about the blown call. This is somebody on my Facebook page, and I don't agree or disagree with it. I'm just putting it out there. The thing about the blown call at the end of the Rams-Saints game is that I don't hear people talking about it was a bad pass, too low, behind the receiver, wasn't going to catch it, and if the DB had turned his head to see it, which he should have done, he was perfectly set to bring it back for 6.
Did not matter. None of that mattered. None of that mattered because even the fact that he catches the ball doesn't matter.
Well, no, exactly.
Because the penalty, 2 penalties right there,
yeah,
would have sealed the deal for for New Orleans. I get that. And, coaches will say, listen, you can't bring it down to this last play here. You just can't do it. Not this coach. He's not saying that
he didn't do that
in this case. I don't know if you noticed, but the season finale, and maybe no one's paying any attention, the season finale of the Connors, the first season of the Connors was last night. Johnny Galecki reappeared as David and asked Darlene to take him back. He'd gotten high and broken up with his girlfriend. These are all things that have happened that you might not even know if you're not watching the show. No word on if there'll be a second season, but ratings have been solid without Roseanne. That was what my question was. So ratings have been solid, although they were still better ratings when she was on board. The show is considered a hit for ABC.
Hey.
Hi. You surprising the kids?
Probably, but I'm going to surprise you first. I broke up with Blue.
What? Why?
She's not you.
Don't do this. You know I'm in a relationship.
I was in one just half an hour ago.
David, you think you can just come in here and I'm going to drop everything? Are you high?
A little.
Anyway, the Connors last night, wrapping it up for season number 1. Ray Romano's first stand-up special in 23 years will debut on net. It must be pretty cool to own a comedy club in New York City or Chicago or L.A., even Miami, when you could be, you have your schedule up there and it's Johnny Rocket tonight. And all of a sudden, Jerry Seinfeld shows up and he's like, hey, I'd like to do 45. You're like, I'm sorry, we've got Johnny Rocket.
Yeah.
You gotta call in advance. You just can't walk in here. No, they put him up on stage.
No, sorry, Johnny.
And the audience gets this awesome. There's probably one person in the audience saying, "Oh my God, I was so looking forward to seeing Johnny Rocket.
I didn't pay for this."
And I do not like Jerry Seinfeld, but for most people, they'd be like, "Wow, that is huge." And Ray Romano stopping in, that's kind of a cool thing, right?
Yeah, for a comedian, I've never seen his stand-up bit before, ever. I've always known him as a comedy-ish guy on sitcom.
On TV. I once had, as you know, comedy clubs. I've run and owned comedy clubs, and I once had a night where we had a big act, and the act didn't show. And the crowd was there for that act. It was huge. Ooh. So how do you handle that? So I ran over to, this was in Washington Mills, I ran over to the McDonald's and I got everybody cheeseburgers. And then we refunded everybody's money. And then I handed out the personal phone number of the comedian to everyone in the audience.
Are you serious?
And they all started calling him. Yeah. They tried to sue me over it. What are you going to sue me for? I just gave out the phone number. And I did it in a way where I was like, okay, let me call. I can't remember the name of the act.
So he just no-showed. Just no-showed. No call.
It turned out that the comedian who booked it, he's saying he never confirmed with me, and this whole thing's going on stage. When I first called him, I called him on speaker. He never told me, and it became kind of part of the act. I really feel that people should give their money back. You got cheeseburgers. You got a phone number. You got the whole conversation. I mean, that might have been better than his actual show.
So how much did you have to pay him?
No, we didn't pay the comedian. No. And the comedian who booked him, we didn't pay him either.
Well, it's just because a lot of times don't you have to pay that up front? I mean, or do you pay him night of?
You don't ever pay. I mean, if you do one of the big acts, you'll pay up front. But the one thing you don't do in the comedy world is stiff anybody. And you shouldn't do that in any world, right? But you'll never get another act if you do. So believe me, there have been nights where you're sitting there. I think it was the guys that are doing the stuff up at the Uptown, and you're sitting there with 2-3 people in the crowd. That's hard on the comedians. It's also very hard on the people who own the place. Trust me, sure. Especially if you have one of those long weekends with storms or something, and you gross no money at all, and they all got them. No comedians coming back to you and saying, "Hey, bad crowd, I'll just take half of what I was supposed to
give me
take.
$20.
Yeah.
You only had 3 people out there tonight.
They don't do that. And KISS, Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons are offering free meals for TSA workers at their Rock and Brews restaurants is the name of their place. Rock and Brews. Since they have only a few locations and most of them are in airports, they're taking care of TSA workers.
We're proud to operate our Rock and Brews restaurants at airports and respect the diligent hard work of each and every TSA employee to ensure the safety of who else? Us.
While the TSA continues to work on our behalf without pay. We want to make sure that we can at least provide them with a delicious meal to show our support.
Beth, I hear you calling, and it seems like you need some food. Lyrics to one of their classic songs, I'm pretty sure. Wayne in Utica. Hey, Wayne, good morning.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hi, Wayne.
You know, I loved when you had Charlie Murphy in town. That was friggin' really big.
That was big, right?
Oh, God, that was, like, so cool. That was, like, I mean, when you look at him, he looks just like his brother, and he was pretty funny.
That might have been one of the biggest attractions. I think that was a biggie. That was really, really big. Yeah.
That was cool. I think it was like his bodyguards or his sidekicks or whatever. They were some big guys, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was good. I just wanted to say that was really cool, and
right.
Thank you.
All right, man. Thanks.
Later.
So
thank you for coming.
Was Charlie Murphy's style joke telling? It was just more storytelling, right?
Yeah, but I think that's kind of what most if a stand-up comedian's telling a joke, it's usually at the end, and the planned bit he was doing failed.
Well,
so
what I mean,
most
right.
comedians aren't big. I mean, everything's a joke, right?
Right.
But it's more of a story being
and,
told.
And Charlie Murphy died in April of 2017.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that.
I've forgotten that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I meant was, I've seen some of his stand-up before. I was unfortunately not at your comedy show when he was there. I would have loved to go, but it's more of I'm Eddie Murphy's little brother, big brother, whatever he is.
Yeah.
And this one time we were over at whatever. I just felt like they were all celeb stories about.
Yeah, no, I think he was really good. He was really good.
That's not what I'm saying.
And I think that his stories were just like every other comedian. Sometimes you get a celebrity in, and you'll get who is a good example of that is the Dynamite guy, who doesn't really form doesn't really do comedy. So he's in telling his stories. There was someone else that was just doing that recently that we had on the air. They were going around doing a tour. It was he was here with the Utica guy.
Bowser.
Not
Bowser. No. That Utica guy's in Congress now. So
you're thinking of the guy from that show,
Sparky, whatever the name of the show was. I can't. Well, what is it, Davey? You know what it was. Hold on, I got to turn your mic on. Ready, go.
Skippy from Family Ties?
Skippy, not Sparky. Anyway, he's somebody that will go out and tell stories. This happened to me when, I slept with so-and-so.
It's Mark Price is his name.
Mark Price.
I put in Sparky from Growing Pains, so I was way off.
Oh, okay.
Sparky from Growing Pains.
Anyway, but I think Charlie Murphy was pretty talented. And it's tough, though, being the brother of anybody, let alone anybody as legendary as Eddie Murphy. Probably not all that easy. And one more I want to throw at you. A high school senior in Florida was in an intersection back before Christmas when she noticed a woman having a seizure in a nearby car. So she pulled in front of the woman's car, let it roll into hers, got out, put the woman's car in park, and called 911. It's a lot of thinking, right? And pretty impressive. Here's audio.
I thought she was texting because she was looking down, straight down, and then she started seizing, and I was like, oh, she's having a seizure. I opened my door first and told people behind me that she was having a seizure, but nobody seemed to care or wanted to help, so I pulled in front of her, and I let her roll into the back of my car. Then I got out, opened her door, put her car in park, took her seatbelt off, and she was, kind of seizing out of the car, so I just, helped her onto the floor as I was on the phone with 911.
Wow. Young female, too. Pretty cool. Hold on for Sherry in New York Mills.
Hey.
She is our caller, the 10th caller, whatever we're looking for.
Number 10.
There we go, Sherry. And unfortunately, we're not going to let you play the contest because your gift was the song.
Yeah,
I hope you enjoyed it and have a wonderful day. No.
Well, it was a good intro.
Yeah, it was. That's a very good point. All right, you know how this works. You'll have exactly 7 seconds to walk over to the computer so that you can do the thing for me, Andrew.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. You know how this rolls. Oh, no need to worry. Jeff is back. You know how this rolls, Sherry. You'll have 7 seconds to answer the question. Get an answer in before the buzzer. Otherwise, no answer, we know you lose, okay?
Yep.
Let's win his money. This is from Joseph and Andrew Habaika, 315-724-1600. All right, here's your question. 7 seconds to answer it, Sherry in New York Mills. When did Led Zeppelin's song Stairway to Heaven hit the charts in the United States? Ready, go.
1976.
You're going to go with 1976. Was it 76?
Oh.
Manasseh, do you want to answer this question?
2015?
No, the answer you were looking for would have been 2007 when the song actually hit the charts. But the answer we were looking for, Sherry, and I want to thank Mike Austin for this question because it's his. The answer was never. It was their manager said no, and this was a whole big thing about we're rock and roll. We're not going to release singles. We don't need singles. This song is bigger than a single. So they never released it as a single. It was later released as a single in the UK in 2007, and it did hit the charts.
2007.
Yeah. But it was never released. So, well, there's a lady who knows all that glitters is gold and all that stuff with a Stairway to Heaven.
Apparently not me.
Yeah, but it's not Sherry in New York Mills. And it's not Sherry in New York Mills. Sorry. But I do have a 72 Tavern and Grill gift card for you that Davey's going to hook you up with, okay?
Yep, thanks a lot.
You sit tight. Thank you, Sherry.
And, of course, we still have some cool merch from the evening lineup at WFXV.
She'll get the pick from that, too.
Absolutely. And they're giving away another $100 tonight between 9 and 10. I believe you have to listen for a code on Fox. So you have a chance to win $100 on Fox in the morning and $100 at night.
Was anybody? I was out of town, so I was unable to go to the Comets game. Joe Marino is in here right now. Was anybody at the game on Saturday night? The Comets game.
I was not.
I was not either.
I got to look it up and see if anybody claimed the 50-50 and how much was it Saturday night? Because it took the 50-50 from Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday and combined into one. Because it was the Save the Day, Rob Esch's foundation.
Yeah, all week Save the Day.
Yeah, the whole week they did it.
That's right.
So kind of wondering, because I did get a ticket.
By the
$20, you got 100 tickets.
By the second period of Friday's game, it was up to $19,000 and change.
Wow.
So I don't know what it ended at, though.
Okay, so Stairway to Heaven, never released as a single. Mike Austin, thanks for that question. That was a really good question this morning. Okay, in studio right now is Joe Marino, councilman with the city of Utica. You're on, when it comes to snow removal, you're being critical of the mayor here. Explain where you're at and explain the technology that the citizens of Utica get to take advantage of.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, that I don't think we're taking full advantage of it. And it's not really critical. It's just, every time I turn around, there's always some announcement as to how great we are and how wonderful everything is. And what I'd like to say is, I'd just like to hold people accountable to the things that we're doing. And about 6 years ago, Dave Short and I met with the town of Kirkland highway supervisor, and we talked about GPS on our plows. We have them on our police and fire vehicles. All of our rescue vehicles have GPS. And I thought it was a great idea to...
So GPS would be so that officials could log in and they'd be able to see where each vehicle is.
Exactly, yeah. Dave Short can literally go on his phone and look as to where our plows are. He can look, where all of our city vehicles are, if they're broken down somewhere. What we seen from Kirkland was, in the initial, onset of this program was to protect the assets. I mean, these are expensive trucks, and there was some lawsuits that happened. And one, in fact, they showed us an example where a plow, you could see the dot of the plow moving, and then you could see the plow or the dot moving off to the left. And there was a lawsuit where a man came from west and the plow was going east, and he said that the plow took him out. He just took a sharp right turn, and by this GPS, it proved in a court that plow didn't do it. So it was for litigation purposes, really protects the value of the asset. But the big part of why I wanted it on there was we have access now, and my criticism is, why aren't we turning it on? Mm-hmm. We have access now to put all this information online. So when we get calls as council people or as the mayor, and you say, hey, my name is John from Eagle Street. I haven't got
nobody's plowed my street.
Yeah, I haven't got my street plowed in 2 days.
Yeah,
we can actually look to see that. And if we turn this system online and give the people what they're actually paying for right now, they could see it. They could just go online, log in.
Could you log on and say, I'm sorry, but the plow was just on John Street at 4 a.m., and they're working their way back around or something like that?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So what it does is it gives you, it's twofold. One, it offers transparency in our services. I mean, we're not supposed to do things in a back room, right? So it offers transparency in our service where the public can actually see what's going on. The other thing, though, that it does is, and I think our plow guys did a tremendous job this winter. I know that there was hiccups, and there always is when you have 6 guys running 210 miles of roads. So they're doing the best they could. What it does is it stops some of that criticism, and it allows these guys to have a little bit of pride in the work that they've been doing, because Dave Short and our plow guys and our DPW guys deserve to have a little bit of backup from their leadership. They need to, to be commended for the job that they're doing. And right now we could prove it, and the mayor refuses to turn that system on. So that's my criticism.
Why is it not being turned on?
I really don't know. You'll have to ask him, and I'm sure that the answer will be, there's Joe Marino being political again. That's all well and good. And, his answer is always, here's politics. But answer the question. Answer one of the questions. I sent the guy, dozens of letters about dozens of items that won't cost the city an extra dime. This service could be turned on right now. So
it costs nothing?
We've already bought it. We've already bought the GPS. They're already hooked up. It's been that way for 6 years.
So it's being wasted.
How do you track it? How do you track it? Is it just like a website you'd log into?
Yeah, I mean, if you look,
the public could. The public could.
So Syracuse right now, and that's the thing.
All right, that was my next question. Where else is this being done?
Yeah, Syracuse right now has it, and it's almost real-time tracking of where their plows are, and it's a snow emergency website.
I saw a story there 2 days ago where I couldn't believe, how did they fire a plow driver because he's driving along and somebody shoots the plow, and there's a bullet hole in the plow truck. And he gets back to the station, and they're like, "You're being suspended." How do you suspend him? Then later in the day, the story came out. The gunshot came from within the cab.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Well,
why
he
would be fired.
It was an exit wound.
That's exactly correct.
Right.
And not sure how that
thankfully,
went down.
I've heard of road rage, but plow rage.
They let teenagers drive plows out there?
Yeah, apparently.
Our plow guys have never shot a firearm inside a vehicle.
That is the problem in Syracuse. It's not adults that are shooting people up. It's kids. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Just a 14-year-old, 12-year-old, 14-year-old, accidental, but
she's in critical condition right now. Yeah.
She didn't die.
No.
Still in critical condition. Terrible.
That's what the gangs.
But that is being used in Syracuse.
It is, right. So again, we have this stuff capable. Look, I'm not talking about setting precedent. We set lots of precedents here in Utica, but they all happen to be political. We're one of the first cities in the country to overturn a referendum for term limits, but we can't blaze any trails on getting some people some service and quality of life issues. The system is there. I just want people to know about it. So that's why I talk about this stuff in public. We have an opportunity to actually see what you're doing with your plows, to not do things in a back room. So I wanted people to know, hey, this service is there. Call the mayor's office. Call your council people. Tell them that you demand we turn it on.
Michael would like to know if the GPS can actually track when the mayor is actually in the cab of the plow. Are we able to?
Yeah, that happened. That happened several times. But again, maybe that's why we don't turn it on. Maybe that's why the mayor hasn't turned it on, because he doesn't want people to know.
Can it retroactively track it too, so it can do a history of a particular plow?
I mean, when we did this, and I say we, I mean it sincerely. I had an idea. Dave Short took it and ran with it. And he fought hard to find money to get the GPS on the plows. We had to talk to the workers. We had to talk to their union representation. Unions were really concerned that we were trying to babysit the employees, which wasn't anything near the truth. It was we were trying to track assets. So they were all great. The workers were tremendous. And when we turned it on, they showed all kinds of activity that you could do with this GPS system. You can go back into history. You could put geotags around certain sites. So if we need to get into the parks and we need to find out where our guys have been, we can tag when they've been inside of our park system plowing or doing dirt in the summertime. It's not only the winter.
Yeah.
In this system for the plows, like I said, people have called and complained, and I think it's unfair to our servicemen that work in this department. They do a tremendous job. They can't hit every side road 3 times before a snowstorm is up, but at least people will know exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Are there employees that of DPW that are fearing that you're trying to track them?
That was the initial concept, right? But, I mean, we're talking about this is 6 years old.
Yeah.
So these guys are well in tune for this system being on there. So, no, they're not.
It's kind of like having a body cam or something like that. You're able to know where they're going.
I mean, but again, even a body cam is on a body, right? I mean, these are only on our vehicles. And these DPW guys, I've talked to all of them. I mean, these guys are all willing and able, and they're looking for leadership to help. Say, when you look at Facebook, here's the snow, DPW's guys are lazy. They're just sitting around not plowing our streets. It's anything but the truth, and we could prove it. So I'm calling on leadership to make sure that our DPW guys get the service and the recognition
they deserve.
Do you feel
this defends them?
It absolutely defends them.
All right.
Absolutely defends them.
And it is because a plow, let's be honest, they're pretty big vehicles. It's kind of hard to say, I'm going over to Joe's bar and I parked it in his garage. You're not going to hide it.
No, I mean,
right?
no one's hiding anything,
You're
and
not
that's
gonna
what I'm
hide
saying.
them.
I mean, the only people
Right.
that are hiding things are politicians.
Okay.
Are the trucks still out? Do you know this? Are the snow plows still out in the city of Utica? For instance, the reason I ask, Bacon Street in East Utica. Looks like it might have got hit once, but I mean, I was picking up my son over there yesterday, and it's still a mess.
Yeah,
man.
there's
And
some
a lot
parts
of those
South
side
Utica,
streets
too, that are
in South and East Utica where it's like, man, it's messy out here.
Well, I can tell you this. As of this morning, they're still out right now. They're out right now. They're doing their routes. They all have routes, right? Dave Short has been, pretty particular about the routes that they travel. So they know when they have to take a left. They know when they zigzag through a particular neighborhood. I'll call on Bacon Street, but I can tell you this. I know that every road in Utica has been hit at least twice, at least. Genesee Street has been done maybe 4 or 5 times, right? Because there's like an algorithm of how often we travel a road.
Well,
so,
we would know for sure if those GPSs were turned on.
I mean, I almost got stuck there last night.
But again, your complaint, right, for
2 or
Bacon
3
Street.
days later, yeah.
Your complaint, if you logged in, say you were in Syracuse and there was a Bacon Street, you could log in and see when it was done. And you might say, well, something else happened. It wasn't the plows that did it. There was something else that created a mess on that road.
I will say,
you'll see that they were out there.
In fairness, I'm assuming the DPW has been diverted to this terrible water main break down on Oriskany.
Yeah,
I mean,
we do
a
help. We
disaster
do
down there.
participate in their help. I can tell you got to ask Dave Short as to exactly what we're doing for them. But I know the state. Look, we have UPD guys blocking off roads, right?
Right.
So,
I mean, it's got to be taking some
it's a community
city
effort.
resources.
There was
down there.
definitely a crew of DPW guys because of the trucks when I went down for coffee downtown yesterday.
We have a sewer department that's been active in helping.
And look at these pictures. And by the way, the OD headline is pretty good. Downtown's bad break.
Yeah, no kidding.
I like that. Clever headline. But when you look at the photo, it's rough over there. Yeah. And you can't. All the roads are closed over there. You can't even go over there.
It was a nasty
one,
that's for sure. It caused a lot of havoc with travel, with downtown traffic. I mean, you're talking about, first thing in the morning traffic, so it was rush hour. There was a lot to do, and I know the DOT is doing a tremendous job. I know that the city is participating and helping. And, like always, our guys in the DPW and, Dave Short, we're here when we are asked.
Yeah.
So they've asked, and I know we're over there.
I ran into Dave Dadiak yesterday morning, actually when I was taking my son to school, and he's like, it was unbelievable.
They got it right in the building, right in the basement.
It was shooting right into the basement like you couldn't believe.
Yeah, they're right in front of it. The
a
OD
real
building.
problem.
Yeah, the OD building was
dropped dead center.
It washed in a new time capsule. It's awesome.
That's what I said to him. I said, you guys don't have like all your records and stuff down there. He's like, no. But he said it was quite a mess.
All right, it is. So, what should people?
I just want people to be aware of these things.
Yeah.
I mean, we have all this access. We have I always say the city is doing tremendously.
Yeah.
But when that's all we have is politicians saying only the good, that's all we have is good. I want people to know that there is more out there. There is more. We can do better. And it's okay to say, hey, look, we got this system. We haven't turned it on in a few years. We're going to do it now. This could be done with 2 phone calls and an IT department, right? So it's no extra money. We have the staff.
Has it ever been used? For the way you're describing
publicly,
you said it's been there for 6 years.
Yeah, we've had the
have
GPS
they ever
on the
used
trucks
in that fashion, and why not?
Not
it's
publicly,
a good question.
but again, that's the thing.
Is it being used to track the vehicles right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
just not able to be.
So someone at City Hall could log in and they could
see. The public can't see it,
okay.
And that's what I mean by defending the DPW. Let the public in on the government that they pay for.
I see.
Well,
I would think the DPW would be probably pretty good with that.
Absolutely, because again, these guys are taking it on the chin, and there's no leadership protecting them.
Yep.
It's just Facebook comment after Twitter comment that the DPW did a bad job. We're getting phone calls after phone calls. Meanwhile, we could just alleviate all that with simply turning on this system. Like, again, you don't have to look very far. Right down the road in Syracuse, they do it right now. It works tremendously. And if there is something to hide, right, for Syracuse's sake, I mean, because they're willing to show it, and they're willing to say, let's get better at it if we are doing something wrong.
Fair enough. Joe Marino, by the way, Angie saying you should contact the people on the flood and the ice mess down there. Contact the people in Miller's Mills. They'll come in and harvest the ice for you. They're always looking for. Some years they don't
ice shortage.
Some years they have to cancel the strawberry shortcake.
They canceled
or
a
whatever.
couple years ago. That's
yeah,
right.
I mean, is that what they serve? No, it's ice cream, right? It's an ice cream social.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Good morning, Jim.
Yeah, they'll come in and harvest
How are you,
that
buddy?
ice for you.
Good to see you.
They have these
Good
old
morning.
big picks that come in and pull it out of there.
I think we're getting an update here.
Jim Piccola,
Live update.
This is fast. This is like boom.
Jim heard us talking about it. He's like, I'm on the way.
We're
I'm
just
glad
saying
he's here because he knows way more about this issue than I do.
Rid of the ice over by the OD. Just call Miller's Mills. They'll come down and hook you guys up. Good morning. What? This was a real setback, I'm assuming, for you guys.
It did throw a little bit of a wrench there,
Yeah.
but with the project, no.
But in terms of it diverts. All of a sudden, this is something that has to be dealt with.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. That line will be replaced in our construction project.
Oh, okay.
So kind of beat us to the punch there.
Okay,
so.
all right. So, can you tell us how long before traffic will be open to back up down there, and how bad? I'm assuming getting a little relief in temperature the next day, 24 hours, is going to help a little bit.
Yeah, that always helps.
Yeah.
Again, the Water Authority did an amazing job. Those guys were on top of it, working very hard through those temperatures and through the night here to get that line repaired.
Yeah.
Also, again, yesterday morning when that first happened, the UPD assisted us in trying to get the detours in. And again, I can't, thank them enough. The fire department. Working along with the basements that got flooded. Those guys were fantastic. Also, United County 911 kind of coordinating everything. They did a great job for us. Right now, when we had our detour in yesterday, we made a few minor tweaks.
Yeah.
Our traffic department looked at it along with our construction folks, and I think it's flowing very nice now, the traffic, especially with the morning peak and the evening peak.
Yeah.
So basically what's left now, the line is repaired. We're going to clean up the area. We're going to assess the area around that got flooded, not only where the break was, but the areas that took on a lot of water.
Yeah.
Did some roadway get broken away and washed away?
Yeah. There's some in the area of the break itself, and then there's a couple of DIs because of the amount of water that we're going on, the drainage inlets, the DIs are. There was some erosion around them.
Okay.
So, again, we'll assess the pavement in that whole area and make whatever repairs we need to. And then.
And this was a 16-inch main?
It was actually a 16-inch main, but where it broke was there was a T, and there was two 6-inch pipes that were actually capped.
Okay.
But one of the 16 broke right next to where where it tied in.
All right.
So we weren't able once the guys were able to expose it. The biggest thing was trying to get it isolated and get it shut down, which took so long. With all the snow, and whatever. The valves are old, but again, I think the Water Authority did an amazing job.
With no boil water advisory either.
The way to shut that off though becomes very similar to what you might do in your own in front of your house, where there's a long tool that goes down. Is that the same type of process to shut off a big main like this?
Yeah, very similar. And
Okay.
I think talking with the
So you got to uncover. You got to dig out snow. You got to find the actual entry point.
There was at least 11, and then I think as they tried to shut them down, they had to keep going more. They ended up. That's why I think they reached out all the way south, and they had to close the United County building.
Wow!
So they waited until 2:30, then shut that valve down to try to help isolate that area.
When do you think this will all be resolved? And will there be a boil water order because of this?
That you would have to check with the Water Authority.
Because as of right now, they don't have any,
Right.
which I was surprised about, but they have not announced one yet.
All right.
Yeah. So we're hoping, like I said, we got to clean up the area, assess the pavement, and then once we are able to make any repairs that are needed to be made, we'll open up the road.
Okay. All right. They say over the OD it was just pouring right into it was pouring into their basement, which a lot of the businesses around there had that problem. This was caused probably by the cold, not necessarily something that somebody hit or anything like that.
That is correct. Nobody was out there at the time, and the line is 1912, and so. Again,
that's line 1912, or it was put in 1912.
Put in 1912.
Okay, so we're talking a pretty old piece of
And
infrastructure.
It made it 107 years. I
Yeah.
mean, that really, they don't make things like they used to.
No, they don't.
No,
I
they
hope
don't.
the next one they put in makes it 107 years.
It'll be PVC, and it'll go about 3 years. So, okay, I want to ask you just quickly, we are in a weather advisory. There's a few schools that have, I think Morrisville is now closed.
And Canastota.
We have some slippery conditions outside the area. What's it like out there right now? Any freezing rain falling? And it could be a little tricky this morning.
Yeah, when I was driving in, I was getting some freezing rain on the windshield. So definitely, again, take your time and drive to the conditions of the road.
All right. Jim Piccola, as always, thanks. I appreciate the quick update here this morning. It's like we just mentioned his name, and bang, he was here.
Andrew calls, I come.
It's kind of like you have a phone booth somewhere, and you twirl around, and you just pop in here. I love it.
It's his secret outfit or uniform.
Got a break at WIBX. All right, I want to switch to Jeff Manasso from Fox News. I had a column that is an editorial up on our website at WIBX950.com. My take on this whole thing has gotten a few people angry because it's a non-political take. I do not believe those kids, those Catholic kids, were respectful. And if I were a parent and one of those were my kids and I was looking at that, I would feel really bad by the way that my kids reacted. And where in the hell were the chaperones? Who's letting those kids get involved? Because that one group was pretty nasty. I want to get the take from Jeff Manasso here. There's a peace vigil that's been going on in the hometown of that school, Covington, Kentucky. Jeff, good morning. What's happening?
Thanks. Basically, what you just set up is you want me to get in between your listeners.
Yeah. Let me tell you, it's a controversial. Some agree and some vehemently disagree. So I would tread very carefully here, and I'm sure you will.
Yeah. Look, this is a controversy that's been blown up for various different reasons. Some people, want the press coverage. It appears, and also the false reporting that we've seen. I mean, MSNBC. If you Google Nathan, this American activist Nathan Phillips, MSNBC comes up first and says, American Indian Nathan Phillips is harassed by high school students, and we now know that is just not the case.
And I think at one point they called him a Vietnam veteran, which we find now is not true.
That's also not the case. We also know that Nathan Phillips has changed his story repeatedly about this viral incident between him and the Covington Catholic High School boys, and whether or not those boys acted appropriately or not. I think that it's fair to say that these boys got themselves caught up in between these American Indian folks and this black group, these Hebrew Israelites, this black group that we now know based on video was hurling racial and homophobic slurs at these boys, and so perhaps wrong place, wrong time. They were there on the mall to support anti-abortion causes, and they got themselves caught up. As far as the chaperones, we're told that they were getting the buses at the time that all of this occurred.
Yeah, so it truly looked like a group of kids, a pretty large group of kids from the school that were basically on their own. Because I can't imagine, especially when the Black Hebrew group there was some of the things they were saying. It almost seemed as if this thing could have gotten violent. I would have been worried as a parent.
Well, that was one of the stories that Mr. Phillips had said. First it was these boys surrounded me, and then once that was blown up, then I put myself in the middle of these boys who were attacking these black older gentlemen, and now we know that was not true, and so there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of folks that are saying, look, we just need to take a breath here. And the school was closed in Covington out of security concerns during that protest yesterday. It was peaceful, though. And, let's hope it remains.
All right, Jeff, just to let you know, just since we have been on the air here talking about this, Rob is asking me if I am biased against Catholics. So he didn't mention your name, so I think you handled it properly.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you, sir.
All right, Jeff, thanks so much. Jeff Manasso from Fox News. Wow, that is a story. Read my editorial. It's up on our website at WIBX950.com. I don't think I've given anybody anything where you really would disagree, but I guess that's probably a fantasy of mine. The fact is, I think that all parties were wrong in some regard, but especially the where was the school? Let me ask you this: if based on the volatility of America today, if your 15, 16, 17-year-old came home and said, hey, they want me to go to Washington and march in a pro-life march, whether it's pro-life, whether it's pro-abortion, whether it's this day and age, people are so amped. I would think you're walking into a hornet's nest to begin with. I'm not sure I would want my 15 or 16-year-old doing that. And I'm not sure I'd sign the release form for them to do it. Anyway, where was the supervision for these kids? Nowhere to be found. I guess they were getting the buses. Maybe they were driving the buses. I don't know. But in my column, I am uncomfortable with the way these kids treated, especially the Native American guy. I have a real problem with it. And I'm not saying he's in the right. He's a professional protester, probably taking advantage of underage kids. But I read it, and feel free to call in and comment. Tim, what are you calling in about, Tim? I forgot.
Hey, Bill, I got a way to end the government shutdown.
Okay, let's do it.
All we got to do is stop paying Congress and the Senate, and they'll come up with a solution in a couple of days.
You know what's kind of funny is that I believe Brindisi is named in one of the pieces of legislation that's calling for that from 2 weeks ago. Isn't it funny they haven't even touched it? They haven't even touched the legislation. I think you're absolutely right. And guess what? After all this, when this is said and done, I really, truly believe that that's what should be passed so that it prevents these government workers from being pawns down the road.
Right.
Yeah,
or at least include the Senate and the Congress.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm with you. Yeah.
No ticky, no washy. They don't.
Yep.
If everybody else isn't getting paid,
why
they shouldn't either.
Why should they get paid? Very good point, Tim. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You too. I agree with him 100%.
I think to Tim's points, if that were to happen, if some miracle of God were to happen and they were to pass
there
that legislation,
be a shutdown.
They won't do it before the shutdown. It's over, is what I'm saying.
Oh, right. Well, then after
Nobody
this
wants
one,
to pass that during
after
the
this one, that would be a pretty good legislation.
The next shutdown
to pass, so that there isn't another one like this. 8:19. Lots to get into here this hour. Coming up, he is a leading Muslim public intellectual and a Duke professor. His name is Omid Safa. I'm sure I don't pronounce his name properly. He'll be speaking on a modern Muslim religion tonight at Hamilton College at 7 p.m., and we'll speak with him next on WIBX. Here's a little contest. I love doing in-house contests. Your chance to win a great prize. I don't know what we're going to give you. Maybe some swag from WFXV, Fox 33.
They do have some cool stuff.
There's some stuff in there. Really, really nice. And here's the question. Do you want to predict after it was Wednesday's game, Friday's game, and Saturday's early game? It was moved because of the storm. How much in the 50-50 of the Comets game, what do you think the jackpot rose to when they drew on Saturday afternoon? What was the prize?
You want me to?
So the jackpot amount is what we're looking for.
The total amount, not half of it. You want the total.
Correct. Davey, get ready. I'm going to ask for you, too. You're going to go with 30. What is that? What
I
is
said
that your
30.
final? You said 30. 30,000 is what you're saying. Oof. What do you think?
33.
Boy, and I got to tell you,
$1, Bob.
If it's that high, I'm pretty sure that's the highest it's ever been. I don't ever remember going into the 30s. I remember going into the 20,000s.
Well, and on Friday it wasn't at 20, maybe.
Oh,
maybe that was
what I
guys,
said. Yeah,
you guys have inside information that I don't have.
No, we were at the game Friday. I told you it's
that's
19.
my point. My
That's
point.
what
You
he
have
said.
inside information. And because I wasn't at the game on Friday.
Literally,
Davey,
inside.
what do you think the 50-50 raffle jackpot went? It's Rob Esch's Save of the Day Foundation, and it was a huge weekend. What do you think the final tally was?
I'll say 28.
$28,000. All right. You want to know what it is? Hit the drum roll, please. You don't really have to. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the Save of the Day Foundation, the winning number was I should say the winning number was not mine. 150-325. That ticket was worth The jackpot was $38,967. And if you cut that in half, that would mean the person walked away with, I'm assuming, well, they'd have to get hit with taxes once you reach that kind of money.
Yeah.
$19,483.50. Wow.
I could do a lot with that.
Isn't that incredible?
Do a real lot with that.
Yeah, you could. 19 grand.
See,
can you imagine playing a 50-50 raffle and winning $19,000 at a game?
That's incredible.
In Utica.
Some people have
Crazy.
that pressure. I'm giving it back.
You'll see people at a Little League game, and I've had it happen. The trick is send up a child to get the money. Because no one will yell at the kid.
Right.
Except for that one lone guy, and then you kick his ass.
Yeah.
So other than that...
you take him out before he gets too rowdy.
I'm walking away with that $16, okay? It's mine. I earned it. You take your $16 for the kids.
Have you seen these uniforms? They don't need it.
I was in Massachusetts over the weekend, and I paid
19 grand.
$19,000.
How about that?
Yeah.
And keep in mind, too, when we were there Friday, it was $19,000 was the total. But and then Saturday, I would have to imagine it was a reduced crowd because it got bumped up earlier.
I don't know. I don't think it was reduced.
Incredible.
I was in Massachusetts over the weekend and getting gas on the Mass Turnpike, which, by the way, I hate the road. I try to work on a computer and have my wife drive, and a lot of their roads on that turnpike are concrete, so they're concrete platforms, one after another. So it's all the way to Boston. I mean, it's just, and your computer's going up and down, then you start to get sick. You vomit all over the place.
You did?
It's just awful.
Oh, no.
I didn't. Anyway.
People don't know how to drive either in Massachusetts.
Anyway, they are ahead of us, though, when it comes to their toll technology. There are no toll booths. You just keep getting whacked by this giant thing. I mean, as you get down to New York City on the thruway, we have that as well. But everything, there is not a single toll booth anymore that you have to deal with in Massachusetts. Think of the number of people who've lost jobs over that.
Yeah, well,
it's all technology. Now you go driving through, and it'll register if you have Easy Pass. If not, it takes a picture, and you will be you take a picture, and they send you the bill.
Well, which is interesting too because I have Easy Pass, and so, but I was worried because I had felt like I had missed a couple the last time I went to Boston or wherever, and I was a little nervous, but.
On the Mass Turnpike, $2.38.
No charges, yeah.
$2.38 on the pay toll road. $2.38 per gallon. That was pretty good.
Yeah. What are you paying here?
I think it's over $2.50 still.
$2.35. Two places I know.
Really?
Yeah. You want me to tell you?
No. Keep it from me.
Burn Dairy on Oriskany Boulevard. I mean, it's a free plug. To be honest with you, it's a free plug. So the Burn Dairy on the Boulevard in Whitesboro is actually like $2.44, but if you pay cash, it's $2.34.
Okay, that's always my problem.
And then again, that Speedway right at the end of Commercial Drive, man, they keep it low. It's $2.35, I believe. I'm pretty sure. I just got gas yesterday.
Yeah, that's good.
And the one over by New York Mills too, where the intersection of Main Street and Oriskany Boulevard is. That's also a Speedway. They have similar pricing.
Wait, Main Street and Oriskany Boulevard.
Main Street and Whitesboro, or New York Mills, or what turns into Main Street.
The one that used to be an A+.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Across from
Boston's. $2.35 there? Wow.
Yeah.
On the line right now, he is speaking. Do I have this correct? That is a he?
Yeah.
Okay. Is speaking tonight at Hamilton College. Omid Safi is a leading Muslim public intellectual, and I apologize for my pronunciation, I'm sure. Duke University professor, author, frequently sought after speaker on Islam in the media, is speaking on progressive Islam, radical love, Rumi as an Islamic voice of divine love. It's tonight, 7 p.m. in the chapel at Hamilton College. And he is on the line right now. Professor, good morning.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
So tell me about what is, right just in a nutshell, your thoughts on the way media portrays the Muslim faith today in the United States.
Well, I think a lot of what we're suffering from is a lack of basic human-to-human knowledge. What we know is that the number one thing that changes people's perceptions is if they actually know any Muslims in real life. And that's one of the reasons I always encourage people to go out there to get to know their neighbors who might live down the street or right down over the next town. And that's really the thing that changes hearts and minds more than anything else that we know.
Yeah. And I would imagine the more of a metropolitan area you live in, the more chance you have of knowing someone who is of Muslim faith.
Sure, but we also have, pockets of the Muslim community right here in Utica, in Syracuse. I lived in upstate New York for 7 years, and so I know that there are, in fact, opportunities for us to get to know each other as people.
I think
even in this community.
And you have to forgive me that we see Utica and Rome as urban areas, just for the record. So the population in this area, I think, of Muslims is pretty high, especially with the influx in the Bosnian community that we've had over the years. So
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, this area, upstate, has been always a place that has attracted immigrants and refugees going back to Italians and Syrians and Lebanese and Bosnians. And so, we've had our own internal diversity here, though sometimes it's not visible to us because they're people who today would be classified as white.
Yeah. Well, and that is also very interesting because of there's a difference, it seems. Maybe we as Americans look differently upon a Bosnian American versus someone from the Middle East. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I do. I think, in some ways, the story of America has always been, as Dr. King said later on in his life, both a dream and a nightmare. There's certainly always been the American dream. There's always been the promise of living a free life and a happy life and a life of prosperity that has attracted people here. And there's also been the American nightmare, where the Native Americans and African Americans and Jews and Irish and Italians and more recently people of Middle Eastern and Muslim background have experienced. And I think it's up to all of us to keep living up to the highest aspect of our own ideals and try to establish a society that reflects our best aspirations.
Can you explain progressive Islam for us?
Basically, it's think about what we just got done celebrating for the Martin Luther King holiday, a commitment to love, and I would say a radical love, a love that is unabashedly universal and global, that says each and every single life is sacred, and that we cannot be right with God until we are right with our fellow sisters and fellow brothers, and then seeks to bring out that love and live into that love in public, and says that when love comes into public, we call it justice. And so it's an insistence on love and justice mingling together, and that we measure our standard of justice not based on how rich our society is, not based on how many billionaires we have, but rather by the people who find themselves at the moment out in the margins.
Yeah.
So we look at the people who are vulnerable and hurting at the moment, and we say the way that they are is the way that we stand at the moment with ourselves and even with God.
How do you feel about Americans who have struggled with the Muslim faith, based on the fact that the people that took down the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and all of what happened on 9/11 went back to people who were using the faith, Muslims who were using their faith for an example and a reason and an inspiration to be able to take down the United States? How should people react? And is it normal for people to be somewhat nervous and apprehensive of something they don't understand, they don't know?
Yeah, I think what is normal is that when we don't know a lot about a faith and we don't know people personally, then to allow that vacuum to be filled by frightening images that we might be fed in popular media and elsewhere. And I always make the case that a faith is only as beautiful and as hideous as the people who practice it.
Yeah.
And so, in the Christian tradition, we've got Dr. King on one side, and then we've got the KKK on the other side claiming to be Christian as well. And I certainly would hope that people around the world don't judge the Christian faith based on the KKK, and I would expect and ask people to extend the same courtesy to Islam and to Muslims, which is to get to meet your neighbors and to study the tradition on its own term and not by the actions of the few zealots who, no doubt, are out there.
Omid Safi is a leading Muslim public intellectual, a professor at Duke University, and speaking tonight at Hamilton College at 7 o'clock on progressive Islam. And what about Sharia law? That is a big topic here. And it has, I think there was one of the big stories was a hotel that was purchased in California. And the owners of that hotel claimed that they were imposing Sharia law on guests that would stay at the hotel. Talk about that and how that fits into a progressive Islam.
Yeah, so I mean, the Sharia law is kind of a boogeyman argument that is made by a lot of people. I mean, the fact of the matter is that Americans who live in this country, regardless of our faith background, we are to abide by the laws of this country. As far as the Sharia goes, it's basically the general Islamic code of life that would cover everything from being kind to one's parents, to not eating pork, to how we greet each other, to, yes, matters of personal law, such as how we get married and inheritance and such things. But as American Muslims, we abide by the laws of this country while observing Sharia in our personal life in the very similar ways that our Jewish sisters and brothers would observe Jewish law in their personal life while also abiding by American law. So I think this argument that Sharia somehow poses a threat to the basic American way of life is frankly another strategy that folks are using to do some fear-mongering. And I would just want to ask them, what do they know about the Sharia and where do they know it from? And I think that kind of critical self-exploration is necessary.
In progressive Islam, where is the place for women? We've seen a lot of changes over a lot of years. It's certainly taken a long time. Not just in the Muslim faith, but in the United States as well. And we've seen stories in the Middle East where women are just first being able to allowed to drive. Where does the female fit in progressive Islam?
In the Congress of the United States of America. Take a look at the two recent Muslim congresswomen who were elected, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. Both of them are progressive Muslim, outspoken, powerful Muslim women, committed to social justice, committed to pluralism, committed to taking care of each other and establishing health care. They're not asking anybody where they fit. They're not asking anybody where they should stand. They're leading. And I think this is frankly where we are. And to even have the conversation about where's the place of the woman in 2019, that time is long gone. And so we've got so many urgent crises in our world today and in our country today. We got babies to feed. We got schools to fix. We got elderly to take care of. We got an environment. And then we've got a frankly deranged and racist president who every day is introducing chaos into our world.
So you certainly take offense to the comments that the president made initially talking about a ban on Muslim countries.
I mean, I'm not surprised. This is what he ran on. This is a president who ran on an Islamophobic campaign. He said as part of his campaign, and I quote, "Islam hates us." And he said that he was going to try to keep Muslims from entering the country, forgetting about the fact that we've been in this country for 400 years. And so, why should I be surprised if that's the one thing that he actually follows through?
And what would you say to, because you say that's long gone, what would you say to, of course, take the Taliban out of it because we call them extremists, but even some of the leaders in the country of Iran that talk about death to the infidels and death to Americans, a lot of that rhetoric they base for themselves, they base on their religion. Is that a thing of the past? Is that becoming a thing of the past in countries like Iran?
I mean, I think what I know is that I am an American citizen, and the country whose politics I concern myself with first and foremost is these United States of America. I'm born in this country. I'm raised in this country. I'm raising up my children in this country. So the government that I scrutinize the most, and I expect it to live up to its ideals the best, is the United States of America. I'm not responsible for Iran or Saudi Arabia or North Korea, or for that matter, France and Germany, and neither are you. We are tax-paying United States citizens, and this is the country of the people, by the people, for the people. So I think the question that I always want to know is, what's the Congress doing? What's the American president doing? What's our local government doing? These are the people who work for us and represent us.
And one last...
I don't work in Iran. I didn't select the Iranian government. So aside from holding them responsible for a standard of human rights, which one does everywhere around the world, I'm not particularly accountable to them.
You're a U.S. citizen. You were born in the United States. So the question I have, and my final question is, do you sometimes find, because you're speaking on the issue of the Muslim faith, do you sometimes find when you're critical of the United States, and I'll give you an analogy to try to explain this, you know, I can criticize my sister, but God forbid somebody criticizes my sister. By the way, I don't even have a sister. But with that said, do some people kind of feel like, hey, this whole go back to your own country thing? Well, this is your country. Talk about that in a nutshell, if you could.
I think what I always tell people is, look, as much as anybody else, I study and I try to live up to not just the teachings, but the very practice of Dr. King. And Dr. King taught us there is no great love where there's also not great disappointment. There's no great disappointment where there's also not great love. If I am disappointed by what I see happening around us in this country today, and I am, and I think many people of conscience are, it's because I love my home. It's because I love where I live, and I want us to be better than what I see being today. I don't want us to be a country that is putting babies in cages.
Right.
I don't want us to see us being a country that is mocking African Americans and Mexicans and Muslims and women and disabled people. And so I expect us and I want us to be a country that is, forget making America great again. How about if we start by making America kind again, making America decent again, making America good again? I think that's where I want to put my own life and effort on. And if there is a disappointment in how I feel about my own country, it's a disappointment based in that love.
Very interesting. Tonight at Hamilton College, 7 o'clock. This is going to be held inside the chapel, right? At Hamilton College. Free and open to the public.
Yeah.
And
Omid, wide open.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the time, and good luck tonight.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm grateful.
All right, thank you. I wanted to say to him, oh, great, now you got people calling up and yelling at us. The fact is, it's an interesting topic. You don't learn from it if you don't listen and you don't talk about it. And that's what Hamilton, I think, does a really good job of. And he'll be speaking on the issue tonight. 8:40, you want to add to it?
Can I just say, kudos to Hamilton College, because they always, regardless of where you stand on the issue, they do bring speakers in. They are not intimidated by protests and all this stuff. They bring right, left, center, far right, far left. They bring all are welcome there, and that is an outstanding thing. I'll save my comments about the guest here, dodging your questions left and right. I believe.
I don't think he did that. I think that he angered you, though. But I could see it in your eyes. You held back. I was hoping you'd dig in, because there's always for me.
Well, he didn't want to talk about the women aspect of it, which is long gone.
He didn't know. He's saying he didn't want to talk about the Iranian issue, saying that this is the United States. This is Muslim
you
faith.
asked about
he
women.
He felt it was a thing of the past. I don't want to put words into his mouth, but I don't feel that you do that he dodged the question. I felt like he took it right on, especially when he went after the president. He didn't hold anything back. He did not hold anything back, which always gets people's blood boiling. Recently, when we had a listener who had an issue and we needed something, I forgot what it was.
A couple of different things.
Plowing, maybe? It was a plowing thing?
No, it was the power outage up at our man in Bridgewater.
Needed a generator.
Needed a generator,
Our guy in
Was it Bridgewater? Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Somewhere up there.
And one of the people that helped out in this case is Dana over in Whitesboro. Now she needs help.
This is a doozy of a situation.
We are the people to call when you need help, because we'll always stand up and try to find somebody to stand up for you. So we're standing up right now. Good morning, Dana.
Good morning.
Only. All right, what's happening? What's your problem?
Actually, what I was helping you with before was the metal detector, I think.
Yes, it was the metal
detector.
detector.
The guy lost the ring.
Yeah.
Lost the ring. So what's the issue? What do you have a problem with?
I have a new little resident in my office that I would like somebody to help relocate.
Oh, it's just a mouse. Come on.
No, it's not a mouse.
It's
Well, it's
a
a
rat.
flying mouse.
Oh, it's
a rodent with wings.
A bat.
Really?
He's a cute little thing, but he really doesn't belong here.
They're cute till they pass that disease on to you.
Yeah,
Let me
they
just
get in
tell
your
you.
hair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not good. So
some call it rabies, some call it tickles.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
You do you have like a tennis racket? Probably not over there in the
She
village
wants
center.
to do it humanely.
I don't want him to get hurt.
Well, you got to kill him.
No, you don't.
I think you do.
No. Did you kill the skunk in your pool?
I tried
drowned,
to.
I think, didn't it?
Well, one drowned, one we got out.
The most recent, the New Hartford skunk.
And believe me, if it was up to me, we'd have had that thing dead. Trust me.
Oh, no. There's no reason.
All right. So you're in the Village of Whitesboro offices.
Yes.
Okay. So if there's anybody out there that can assist, Village of Whitesboro offices, it's right in your office, huh?
Yeah, I'm looking at him.
Oh, don't.
So he's not.
Don't make eye contact.
Or you should get some garlic, a crucifix, and what other things
All
distract
right.
from vampires?
I hope somebody reaches out to you, Dana. What's the village office number if somebody has a solution for you?
315-736-1613.
All right. Good luck, Dana.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
See, we'll always stand up. We won't do anything, but we'll stand up to
I
assist.
could go over there and pretend to know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you could. But don't.
Leave,
you do have. I know they look. They probably look all nice. They do have. They have teeth, and they can be carrying rabies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a wuss with that stuff. I call the police.
Sure, there's a bit.
It goes like this. Hi, 911. Yeah, we've got a bat. I was wondering. Well, what are we supposed to do? I don't know, but I don't know what to do. So they usually come over, and they come with a tennis racket in hand. They're ready for you. They'll also unlock your car. They used to anyway if you lock your keys in. Sometimes they don't do that anymore. Gotta go. We're back here tomorrow. Enjoy your day.